My phone lit up before sunrise this morning. It's always the same group chat, a mix of old teammates, investors, and friends I've known for decades. Before I'd even had coffee, the thread was already descending into chaos. Someone was panicking about the crypto sell-off. Another was sharing a chart on oil futures. And then, like clockwork, came the political jabs, the memes, the outrage. It's this bizarre blend of market analysis, midlife philosophy, and raw frustration. What's striking is how much it feels like the playground, just older, men still fighting for turf dominance, just trying to be heard. That noise isn't just in my phone. I saw the exact same thing this week watching the New York mayoral debate. Each candidate talking over the other, an audience caught somewhere between cynicism and total exhaustion. That static, that disconnect, it feels like it's everywhere. It's a mirror of the national mood, and it poses a really big question. Has all this frustration, all this noise finally pushed America to a point where it's ready for something completely different?
Yeah, that static, that exhaustion you're describing, it really hits home. It feels personal, but it's actually reflecting these massive, deep structural pressures in American life right now.
Right. It feels like chaos, but maybe it's not random.
Exactly. It might seem like just noise or anger, but when you dig down, you find these huge systemic disconnects. They're preventing us from actually solving problems. So our mission today really is to get past the sort of daily outrage cycle and look at three foundational forces, these structural things driving all this frustration, this breakdown in trust.
Okay. So what are these big forces?
Well, first, we're going to dive deep into how these, frankly, archaic political mechanisms, systems literally designed for an 18th century farming society, how they're failing, just completely failing, to govern a modern, complex digital economy that's connected globally.
Right, the old operating system idea.
Yeah, precisely. Then second, we'll look at the combined punch, the sort of synergistic impact of AI adoption speeding up like crazy alongside this really entrenched economic inequality. That combination is just squeezing the middle class. You can feel it.
Yeah, you really can.
And finally, the third piece is breaking down the influence, and it's profound, of digital media.
Yeah.
Specifically, the algorithms, the structures that are actually designed, for profit, from division, from eroding any kind of nuanced public conversation.
Okay.
So we really want to show you the actual mechanisms, the data, the stuff that explains why the whole system just feels so broken to so many people, why it feels like nothing works anymore.
Okay, let's unpack this, because you have to start with governance, right? That's where the modern world crashes into the 18th century most clearly, I think. I was thinking about this story. Sarah, she's a freelance software developer, works out of North Carolina. Total example of the digital economy, right? She works remotely. Clients in London, Singapore, designs these super efficient, responsive systems. That's her job.
Right, very 21st century.
Totally. Her life is completely modern, but then comes politics, and she just feels trapped. Her congressional district, gerrymandered to hell, basically decides her rep before the vote. Her presidential vote feels diluted, winner take all state in the electoral college.
Yeah.
She actually joked. She said, if she designed software this clunky, this unresponsive to the users, she'd be fired instantly.
Yeah, I bet.
And her frustration, it just perfectly captures that first theme, doesn't it? Trying to get the complex needs of a modern interconnected workforce heard through this old political machine built for slow local stuff.
That 18th century operating system analogy is just, it's spot on.
Yeah.
And the absolute core of that political dysfunction, you find it in the U.S. Senate. Statistically, it's the least democratic part of the government. It suffers from these two intertwined democratic problems that are baked right into the Constitution and, its rules.
Okay, what are those two?
So the first one is malapportionment. It sounds technical, but it's simple. The Constitution guarantees 2 senators for every state. Doesn't matter if it's California or Wyoming.
Right, regardless of population.
Exactly. Now, back in the 1780s, maybe that was a necessary compromise, to get everyone on board. But today, the disparity is enormous. Think about it. Wyoming's 2 senators speak for, under 600,000 people?
Tiny state, yeah.
But they have the exact same voting power as California's 2 senators who represent nearly 40 million people.
Wow. That math is stark.
It is. It means a voter in Wyoming basically has 80 times the Senate representation as a voter in California. So it's really easy for a majority of senators to actually represent a minority of the American people.
Yeah.
That's what we call minority rule. It's built in.
Okay, so that imbalance alone, that malapportionment, that's enough to cause problems. But then you layer on the second issue, the filibuster.
Exactly. That's a multiplier. The modern filibuster, I mean, it's basically the rule that says you need 60 votes, not just a simple majority of 51, to end debate on something. That's the cloture vote.
To even get to the final vote.
Right, just to move forward. And it's crucial to remember, this wasn't like in the original plan. The founders didn't design this 60-vote thing. It sort of evolved mostly over the last century and got locked in pretty recently, relatively speaking. It gives this incredible blocking power to a minority of senators. Just 41 senators can stop almost anything.
Okay, but here's where it gets tricky, right? Because the conversation about getting rid of the filibuster to fix gridlock always runs into this counter-argument. People say, well, wait, the filibuster might be bad, but it's the only thing stopping that other problem, the malapportionment, from running wild.
That's the tragic, messed up paradox of the Senate, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only real justification left for the filibuster today is that it kind of, sort of, counteracts the fact that 51 senators who could, represent maybe only 45% of the actual population, a minority, could otherwise just ram their agenda through with a simple majority. So the filibuster stops this geographical minority from totally dominating the whole country. But, and this is the huge but, it achieves that check by causing crippling total legislative gridlock. Nothing important or controversial gets done.
And we see that gridlock all the time. It's not just theory, right? It directly blocks things that most people, even represented by the senators voting yes, actually want. Can you give us some solid examples?
Oh, absolutely. It's constant. Look at the Manchin Amendment. This was for expanding background checks for gun purchases, came up after the Sandy Hook shooting. Huge public support.
I remember that.
It failed cloture, 54 to 46. Now, 54 votes, that's a clear majority of the Senate, but it was 6 votes short of the 60 needed to break the filibuster.
6 votes short.
Right. But here's the kicker. Those 54 senators who voted yes to move forward, they represented over 62% of the U.S. population.
62%.
Yeah. So a minority of senators representing maybe 30-something% of the country blocked action supported by a clear majority of Americans, represented by a majority of senators.
Wow.
Same thing happened with the Disclose Act. Campaign finance, transparency, trying to get dark money out of politics, failed twice to get past a filibuster. And in those votes, the senators voting yes represented over 63% and then over 64% of the population. Again, a small minority representing way less than half the country stopped it cold.
Okay, so that's what happens with the filibuster. But what about when it's bypassed or removed? We've seen that happen too, right? Like with budget reconciliation for spending bills or when they change the rules for judges.
Right. And when you take the filibuster away, that other problem, malapportionment, just takes over completely. The geographical minority can impose its will.
Yeah.
Look at the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Passed using reconciliation, so no filibuster. 51 senators voting for it.
Simple majority.
Simple majority. But those 51 senators, they collectively represented only 43% of the U.S. population.
43%, less than half.
Way less than half.
Yeah.
And same story with Supreme Court nominees since they nuked the filibuster for those. Confirmations have happened with Senate majorities representing population shares between 44% and 47%. So you see the trap. Keep the filibuster. You get gridlock on popular stuff. Remove the filibuster. A minority representing less than half the country can push through major changes. Either way, the system isn't reflecting what the majority of citizens actually want.
So we're stuck. It feels like a catch-22. Keep it, nothing happens. Ditch it. Minority rule takes over. It seems like any real fix has to tackle both problems at the same time. Is there any way to do that without something impossible, like amending the Constitution?
Well, there's a proposed reform, and it's gaining traction among scholars who really study this stuff. It's something the Senate could actually do itself, just by changing its own rules.
Yeah.
It's called the Popular Majoritarian Cloture Rule.
Popular Majoritarian Cloture. Okay, how does that work?
It's actually pretty elegant. The rule would say that a motion to end debate, to get to that final vote, passes if and only if it gets support from a coalition that meets 2 conditions simultaneously.
2 conditions.
First, you still need a simple majority of senators, at least 51. That protects the smaller states, right? You still need a majority of the states represented.
Got it. Condition 1, 51 senators.
Right. And condition 2, that group of 51 or more senators must also collectively represent a larger share of the U.S. population than the senators who are opposing the motion.
Okay. So it's not just 51 senators, it's 51 senators who also represent more than 50% of the people, a dual majority.
Exactly. A majority of states and a majority of the population represented by those same senators.
So it protects both ways.
Precisely. It's symmetrical protection. It stops the big states from just rolling the small states because you still need 51 senators. But and this is key, it also protects the actual popular majority from getting overruled by the built-in advantage of the low population states.
That seems potentially huge. What would that do to how laws actually get made?
The implications could be profound. Think about it. Party leaders couldn't just rely on party discipline to push extreme stuff through anymore. If you need 51 votes, and those 51 votes need to represent, say, 52% of the country,
You need broader support.
you have to get centrist votes. You need senators who appeal beyond just their party base, maybe senators from purple states or moderates from within the parties. It forces compromise. It forces moderation. It pulls the action back towards the center, where maybe you can actually find national solutions instead of just being stuck in this permanent gridlock region.
So it creates a path for the system to actually respond again.
It could. And it's not like this kind of complex voting is unheard of. Other bodies, like the Council of the European Union, use similar weighted double majority voting systems all the time. It's doable.
Okay, so that offers some hope on the political side. But as you said, this political inability to act, this inertia, it just pours gasoline on the fire of economic anxiety, especially for the middle class. When the government can't respond, that stress just builds and builds.
Absolutely. That's the connection. The political failure feeds the economic desperation, which then fuels more political anger. It's a cycle.
Which brings us right to that second theme, the squeeze on the middle class, driven by technology, specifically AI, and inequality.
Yeah. That political paralysis combined with real economic fear, that's the engine of so much frustration. And right now, nothing feels more threatening or maybe more uncertain than the speed of AI development.
I keep thinking about Marcus. He's 54, works as a logistics manager at Midwest Distribution Center. For 20 years, right, his career was about managing people, scheduling, training, solving problems between staff.
Classic middle management. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Then last year, boom, massive automation push, robots gliding around, software running the show. Marcus still has his title, technically, but now he mostly stares at AI dashboards monitoring the robots. His salary, frozen, 3 years straight, health insurance costs, going up. He sees the company making more money, being more efficient, but none of it's trickling down to him.
He feels left behind.
Totally. And here's the real anxiety kicker. His daughter's in college, learning to code AI. He's genuinely terrified she's going to graduate and help design the next system that makes his job completely obsolete. That's the human cost, isn't it? That synergistic impact of AI and inequality hitting home.
Marcus's story is, unfortunately, a perfect illustration of what researchers have been tracking for decades now, called job polarization. This hollowing out of the middle, these middle-wage jobs that involve routine tasks, it's been happening since the 80s, mostly driven by what economists call routine-biased technical change, or RBTC.
Okay, routine bias technical change. Break that down for us. What's routine in this context?
So routine tasks are basically things that follow clear, predictable rules or steps. Things machines can learn easily. Think assembly line work that's routine manual, or think bookkeeping, data entry, basic clerical stuff that's routine cognitive.
The jobs that form the backbone of the middle class for a long time.
Exactly. And the pattern of loss is really stark. About 88% of the job losses in these routine areas happen during recessions. But here's the key difference now, compared to past downturns. Those jobs don't come back afterwards.
They're gone for good, replaced by tech.
Permanently replaced. So what happens? Workers with higher skills often move up into higher-paying jobs that require complex thinking, creativity, managing people non-routine cognitive work. But displaced workers with lower skills often get pushed down into lower-paying service jobs, things like home health aides, food service, non-routine manual work. The middle shrinks.
And it feels like AI is different because it's now hitting those cognitive routine jobs, the white-collar ones, much harder than before. And that seems particularly rough for older workers, like Marcus.
Precisely. Older workers generally have lower labor market fluidity. They're less likely to move for a job, less likely to go back to school for a whole new skill set. So when a big shock hits, like automation wiping out their type of role, they're much less resilient. Finding new work is significantly harder for them.
But it's not universally bad for all older workers exposed to AI, is it? There's some nuance there.
There is. And it really comes down to whether the AI is likely to replace them or complement them, help them do their job better.
Okay, explain that distinction, substitution versus complementarity.
Right. So researchers look at jobs with high exposure, HE, to AI, meaning AI could significantly impact the tasks involved. But within that group, they split it into two categories: high complementarity, HEHC, and low complementarity, HELC.
AKHC and HELC.
Got it. HEHC jobs are the ones where AI exposure is high, technology can definitely help, but the chance of a human being fully replaced is low. Why? Because the job relies heavily on things like complex human interaction, ethical judgment, creativity, deep strategic thinking.
Like doctors, lawyers, top managers.
Exactly. Think of lawyers using AI to sift through documents faster, surgeons using robotic assistants, executives using AI for data analysis to make better strategic calls. And here's the counterintuitive part. A pretty large share of older workers, especially those with college degrees, are actually concentrated in these HEHC jobs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and these jobs often pay well, offer flexibility, maybe telework options, things that are attractive as people age. So for these older workers, AI could actually make their jobs better, potentially letting them work longer and more productively.
Okay, so that's the upside. If you're a 60-year-old surgeon, AI might be your friend. But what about the other category? The HELC jobs, high exposure, low complementarity.
That's the danger zone. These are jobs where AI exposure is high, and the tasks are highly routine, with little need for that uniquely human touch. Think legal assistants doing standard document filing, data entry specialists, maybe some types of customer service roles where scripts or chatbots can take over.
Yeah, the kinds of jobs Marcus might feel are closer to his reality now.
Could be. And older workers who get displaced from these HELC jobs, they face a really tough road. Their lower mobility, maybe less capacity or opportunity for retraining, makes finding comparable work incredibly difficult.
And this whole dynamic just feeds the inequality machine, right?
Absolutely. The economic growth we get from AI tends to flow upwards. It benefits the highly skilled workers whose jobs are complemented, the corporations deploying the tech, and the investors funding it all. We see data showing that in countries integrating AI quickly, the richest 10% see their incomes rise, while the poorest 10% actually see their share of income go down.
Wow.
And with estimates suggesting maybe up to 40% of jobs globally have some significant exposure to AI automation risk, you can see how this could really accelerate wealth concentration. It also risks creating more market concentration because only a few huge tech companies have the resources for the most powerful AI, potentially leading to more monopoly-like behavior.
So, if the answer isn't turning everyone into an AI coder, which just isn't realistic for most people, what's the key skill people need to adapt to survive or maybe even thrive in this environment?
The crucial skill for the vast majority is what we can call AI literacy. It's not about becoming a deep expert developer. It's about becoming a smart, effective user of AI tools.
What does that look like in practice?
It means understanding the basic ideas of how AI works, not the complex math, but the principles. Knowing how to prompt these tools effectively to get useful results for your specific job. And critically, being able to evaluate the output. Can you spot errors? Can you understand its limitations or potential biases? Can you use it responsibly?
So less about building the engine, more about knowing how to drive the car safely and effectively.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, it's a higher level of functional literacy that's much more achievable through targeted training than, say, getting a PhD in machine learning. Building this widespread AI literacy across the workforce is absolutely vital if we want the benefits of AI, the productivity gains, to be shared more broadly instead of just concentrating at the very top.
That economic anxiety, though, that feeling that the ground is shifting under your feet, it just inevitably amps up the political frustration, doesn't it? People feel desperate for answers, for help.
It absolutely does.
And that raw frustration, that desperation, as we move into our third theme, that's exactly what the digital world, especially social media, seems perfectly designed to capture, amplify, and even profit from.
Yeah, the digital world isn't just a mirror to our frustration. It's actively mining it for cash.
I was really struck by this story, a college student talking about his uncle from Pennsylvania. It used to be close, apparently, but now holidays are just impossible, constant arguments.
Sounds familiar, unfortunately.
Yeah. The uncle gets almost all his news from his social media feed, right? Highly personalized. And he's constantly bringing up these really inflammatory, often completely baseless stories about politicians or cultural issues. The student, living in his own bubble, tries to counter with facts, data.
But doesn't work.
Useless. It's like they're not just disagreeing, they're operating in totally different realities, curated by algorithms. The student basically said, the platform knows exactly the outrage button to push for my uncle to keep him hooked, and it knows exactly the validation button to push for me.
Wow.
And the platform makes bank while their relationship and any chance of real conversation just falls apart. That's the business model working perfectly, isn't it? The business model of division.
That story is a perfect, heartbreaking example of algorithmic fragmentation. It captures this concept researchers call algorithmic radicalization. It's the idea, backed by evidence, that these recommender algorithms on social platforms are often systematically pushing users towards more and more extreme content over time.
Why? To what end?
To maximize engagement. It's that simple and that brutal. The algorithms are optimized for one thing above all else: keeping your eyeballs glued to the screen. Clicks, shares, comments, how long you watch.
And extreme content gets engagement.
Extreme content, outrage, misinformation, high drama politics, these things reliably drive activity. It's been studied. False rumors, especially political ones, spread significantly faster and wider than true stories. Why? Because they tap into our biases, our emotions, our desire for confirmation. The algorithm learns that and feeds us more of what keeps us clicking, even if it's garbage.
So that's where filter bubbles and echo chambers come in. Are they the same thing or slightly different parts of this problem?
They're related, but slightly different. Think of the filter bubble as the technology the platform uses to create your personalized information world. Based on everything you've ever clicked, liked, watched, it filters out stuff it thinks you won't like and pushes forward stuff it thinks you will engage with. It deliberately limits your exposure to different views to keep you happy or angry within the app.
Okay, so the bubble is the personalized environment.
Right. And the echo chamber is the social result of lots of people living in their own filter bubbles. It's when a group of people who already think alike mostly just hear their own ideas reflected back at them over and over. Dissent gets filtered out, agreement gets amplified. And what happens then, according to group polarization theory, is the group's average opinion tends to get more extreme over time.
And the platforms aren't just passive observers in this, right? They actively tweak things to encourage it.
Oh, absolutely. Look at Facebook. Their algorithm famously prioritized content that generated strong reactions, anger, outrage. Why? Because that stuff gets shared like crazy. Internal documents even show they knew their systems weren't neutral, that, quote, the more incendiary the material, the more it keeps users engaged, the more it is boosted by the algorithm. It's a conscious choice, optimizing for profit, which means optimizing for division.
And other platforms.
Or think about TikTok. That For You page is incredibly powerful at learning what grabs you very quickly. There's research and anecdotal evidence suggesting it can lead users down rabbit holes towards more extreme content if they engage with even slightly fringe stuff initially. We've seen extremist groups, even foreign terrorist organizations, get pretty savvy at using TikTok for propaganda.
And this isn't just online chatter, right? It spills over.
Definitely. This kind of content has been linked to real-world plots, like thwarted attacks in Europe, where teenagers were found to have been radicalized partly through this kind of online exposure. It helps fuel that lone wolf phenomenon, where someone self-radicalizes in these digital echo chambers, soaking in extreme views without any counter-narrative.
Which inevitably brings us to the big legal question hanging over all of this: platform responsibility, and specifically Section 230.
Section 230, yeah, the 26 words that created the internet, as they say. It's part of the Communications Decency Acts from way back in 1996.
Ancient history in internet terms.
Totally. And the key part basically says that online platforms, like social media sites, generally aren't legally treated as the publisher of content posted by their users. So if someone posts something defamatory or illegal on, say, Facebook, you generally can't sue Facebook for hosting it, even if they know it's there. They're treated more like a bookstore or a library carrying books, not the author of the books themselves.
But why is that immunity so controversial now, especially with these algorithms we're talking about?
Because the world is completely different from 1996. Back then, platforms were mostly passive hosts. Now they have these incredibly sophisticated algorithms that aren't just hosting content. They're actively recommending, promoting, and amplifying specific pieces of content to specific users to maximize engagement.
They're making editorial choices, essentially.
That's the argument. Critics say Section 230 gives platforms a free pass. They can design algorithms that deliberately push inflammatory, divisive, or even harmful content because it drives clicks and ad revenue, and they face little legal risk for the consequences. The incentive to proactively remove bad stuff or design less divisive algorithms is reduced because the liability shield is so strong.
Have there been attempts to change this?
Oh yeah, lots of talk, some proposed bills. The focus is often on tweaking Section 230 so that the immunity doesn't apply when a platform's own recommendation algorithm knowingly or recklessly promotes content that leads to real-world harm, like violence or severe emotional distress. But changing it is incredibly difficult. The tech lobby is powerful, and there are genuine free speech concerns too. It's a really tangled mess.
But if the core business model relies on maximizing engagement, and engagement is maximized by division and outrage, the stakes feel almost existential for our ability to function as a society, doesn't it?
They really do.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just political disagreement. When the algorithms systematically chip away at a shared sense of reality, when we can't even agree on basic facts, how could we possibly solve complex problems together?
Right.
Someone put it very starkly, I thought. The opposite of democracy isn't authoritarianism. It's algorithmic fragmentation of the capacity for collective thought. If we can't think together, we can't govern ourselves. The system gets optimized for clicks, and our ability to act collectively just withers away.
Okay. So we've traced these three huge structural forces, the creaking 18th century political system causing gridlock and frustration, then the economic pressure cooker of AI and inequalities squeezing the middle class, and finally this digital media architecture that feeds on and worsens the division. It really paints a picture of why everything feels so chaotic and exhausting.
And the key thing to grasp is how they feed each other. These aren't three separate problems running in parallel. They're locked in this destabilizing feedback loop.
Explain that loop. How do they connect?
Okay, think about it like this. The economic anxiety, theme 2. Marcus, losing ground, fearing obsolescence because of AI, and inequality that creates real stress. People get desperate, they look for political answers, sometimes extreme ones. They need the system to do something.
Right, they turn to politics for help.
But then they hit the political wall, theme 1. The archaic system, the malapportionment, the filibuster, it's gridlocked. And it can't pass popular solutions like maybe stronger safety nets or rules for AI or fair taxation. It fails to translate that public need into action. What does that do?
Breeds cynicism, frustration, like Sarah feeling totally powerless.
Exactly. Deep cynicism.
Yeah.
A feeling the system is rigged, it doesn't work. And that frustration, that cynicism, is like catnip for the algorithms. Theme 3.
Ah, the platforms harvest it.
They capture it, amplify it, monetize it. They feed the outrage, deepen the divisions between groups, like the student and his uncle, and make reasoned collective discussion impossible. The fragmentation they cause prevents us from building the consensus needed to actually fix the underlying political or economic problems.
So each crisis reinforces the others. Economic pain fuels political demand, political failure fuels cynicism, digital platforms monetize the cynicism and prevent solutions. It's a closed loop.
A closed system of anxiety and paralysis.
Yeah. It feels like an enormous challenge. Overwhelming, almost. But maybe understanding how the trap works, seeing the gears, is the essential first step.
I think it has to be,
Yeah.
because the reality we face is stark. You have this political system that is, by its very nature, incredibly resistant to change. It's rooted in compromises and designs from over 200 years ago.
Built for inertia, almost.
Right. But meanwhile, the economic world, driven by technology like AI, and the digital world, driven by algorithms, they're changing at an exponential pace, blindingly fast. So what does that mean? It means the burden of adaptation falls incredibly heavily on us, on the individual citizen.
We have to keep up, even if the system doesn't.
We have to be the ones to acquire that AI literacy, to consciously seek out nuanced information, to resist that seductive pull of algorithmic outrage. Because the system itself isn't going to adapt quickly. The long-term path society takes will likely be decided by whether we, as individuals and communities, can adapt faster than the inertia of our own political and economic structures allows. That's the race we're in.